First contact gone wrong. The void between stars held no warmth, but Captain Sarah Chen felt a chill run deeper than the vacuum outside as she stared at the emergency beacon's readout. The UES Starweaver, Earth's most advanced deep space research vessel, had been mapping the edges of known space when they detected the signal. It wasn't the standard Galactic Council frequency. This was something older, more primitive, and far more desperate. Analysis complete, Captain. Lieutenant Park reported from his station, dark eyes fixed on the holographic display. The signal's coming from Research Station Epsilon 12. He hesitated. It's registered to the Lysithians. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Lysithians, a species of brilliant scientists who'd evolved in an environment so controlled and peaceful that they never developed natural defenses. Their contributions to medical science were legendary, but they were notorious for avoiding contact with aggressive species, especially humans. "Show me," Sarah ordered, rising from her command chair. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a delicate structure that resembled a crystalline snowflake. But something was wrong. One section of the station was dark, its elegant architecture torn open to space. "Life signs," Sarah demanded, already knowing the answer wouldn't be good. "Weak, but present. I'm detecting 12 Lysithian signatures in the central hub." And, Park's voice hardened, 23 unknown biosignatures in the surrounding sections. Definitely not Lysithian. Commander David Rodriguez, her first officer, moved to her side. "Raiders," he said quietly. "Has to be. This sector's been seeing increased activity from the Varkai. They usually stick to cargo ships. But a research station." He left the implications hanging. Sarah felt the weight of command settle onto her shoulders. The Galactic Council had made their position clear. Humanity was too unpredictable, too violent to join their ranks. Interfering in Council space could trigger a diplomatic incident. But those 12 life signs were growing weaker by the minute. "What's their security like?" she asked. "Minimal," Lieutenant Santos replied from Tactical. "Lysithians don't believe in weapons. They've got emergency force fields. But that's about it. The raiders probably walked right in." Sarah's jaw tightened. The Varkai were infamous for their mercy. They'd leave survivors, but only after extracting whatever information they wanted through methods that made hardened soldiers sick. How long until Council peacekeepers could respond? "Nearest patrol is 6 hours out, minimum," Rodriguez answered. "The Lysithians won't last that long." Sarah looked around her bridge crew. Humans all. Born on a world that the Council called a death world, due to its harsh gravity, extreme weather, and dangerous wildlife. Everything about their biology screamed predator to the more peaceful species of the galaxy. But it wasn't aggression that drove her next decision. It was compassion. "Combat teams to ready stations," she ordered, her voice carrying the steel of certainty. "Medical, prepare for casualties. Engineering, I want our stealth systems at maximum efficiency." She turned to Rodriguez. "The Council says we're too violent. Fine. Let's show them what that violence can do when it's protecting the innocent." The Starweaver's engines hummed to life as the crews sprang into action. In the armory, Marines donned powered armor designed to let them fight in any gravity. In medical, doctors prepared treatments compatible with Lysithian biology. Every person aboard knew they were about to violate Council law, but not one hesitated. "Coming up on visual range," Park announced. "Raider's ship is docked at the primary airlock. No sign they've detected us." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The Raiders were used to preying on peaceful species who couldn't fight back. They had no idea they were about to face humanity's finest. "Tactical, prepare boarding solutions. I want options that won't risk the station's integrity." She stood, addressing her crew. "The Council thinks we're dangerous. They're right. But they forgot something important. The most dangerous predators are often the ones that protect others. Let's remind the galaxy why even Deathworlders can be heroes." The Starweaver slid through space like a shark through dark water, its crew ready to prove that humanity's so-called violent nature could be the greatest gift to those who needed protection. The raiders were about to learn why you should never corner a species that evolved as both predator and protector. In the station's central hub, the surviving Lysithians huddled together, their crystalline forms dimmed with fear. They had no way of knowing that their salvation was approaching, not in the form of the Council's peaceful peacekeepers, but in the shape of the very species they had feared. Sometimes, it takes a predator to save you from the monsters. The price of compassion. The Starweaver's combat teams moved through the station's access corridors like ghosts, their powered armor compensating for the near-zero gravity. Captain Chen watched their progress through the tactical display, each soldier represented by a steady blue dot. The raiders' positions glowed red, scattered throughout the station's outer rings. Team Alpha in position. Major Santos whispered through the comm. 15 hostiles in the primary lab. They're interrogating the scientists. The audio feed carried muffled screams that made Sarah's blood boil. The Lysithians' crystalline bodies weren't designed for pain. Their peaceful evolution had never required them to develop resistance to torture. Team Beta status, Sarah demanded, forcing her voice to remain steady. Ready at secondary junction. We've got 8 more hostiles tripping the medical bay. They're loading something into containment units. Looks like research samples. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew across his console. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from those containers. Whatever they're stealing, it's not just medical supplies. Team Charlie, hold position at their ship's airlock. Sarah ordered. No one gets off this station. She turned to Rodriguez. Thoughts? The commander studied the tactical display. The raiders will use the scientists as shields once they realize we're here. We need to hit all positions simultaneously. Sarah nodded. This was why humanity had survived on their harsh world. Not just strength, but strategy. All teams, execute on my mark. Non-lethal takedowns only. We're not here for revenge. The next 60 seconds passed in absolute silence. Then Sarah gave the command that would change everything. Mark. What followed was a testament to human efficiency. Team Alpha burst into the main lab through 3 different entry points, their modified stun weapons dropping raiders before they could react. The Varkai, used to terrorizing weaker species, found themselves facing opponents who moved with practiced precision in conditions that should have crippled most species. In the medical bay, Team Beta deployed sonic disruptors tuned to Varkai physiology. The raiders dropped, clutching their auditory organs, while the human soldiers secured both them and their stolen cargo. Central lab secured, Santos reported. 11 scientists safe. Medical team needed. They're in rough shape, but alive. Medical bay cleared, Beta leader confirmed. Captain, you need to see what they were trying to steal. Sarah was already moving. The Starweaver's medical team rushed past her, led by Dr. Elena Martinez, their xenobiologist. The Lysithian scientists recoiled at first, their crystalline forms vibrating with fear at the sight of more aliens. But as the human medics gently began treating their wounds, their fear gradually turned to confusion, then cautious wonder. Why? One of them finally asked, their melodic voice weak. The council said your kind only brings violence. Dr. Martinez smiled as she carefully sealed a crack in the scientist's crystalline surface. Violence is just a tool like any other. What matters is how you choose to use it. In the medical bay, Sarah found Rodriguez examining the stolen containers. These aren't just medical samples, he reported grimly. The raiders were after something specific. He showed her the data readout. The Lysithians were researching evolutionary adaptation, looking for ways to help species survive on worlds very different from their own. Terraforming technology. Better, or worse, depending on who has it. They found a way to temporarily modify a species' biological structure. Imagine being able to survive on any world, in any environment, without terraforming or protective equipment. Sarah's eyes widened as the implications hit her. No wonder the raiders wanted it. With this, they could strike anywhere, survive on any world. She activated her comm. Security teams, I want those prisoners under maximum guard. Full biometric isolation. A new alert flashed on the tactical display. Captain, Hart called out. We've got incoming. 3 Council peacekeeping vessels responding to the station's distress call. Sarah straightened her uniform. This was the moment of truth. Open a channel. The main screen flickered to life, showing a stern-faced Ardaxian peacekeeper. Their species was one of the Council's founding members, and among the most vocal opponents of human membership. This is Commander Vextol of Council Security. You are in violation of... The commander trailed off, mandibles clicking in surprise as they processed the scene. Behind Sarah, human medics tended to Lysithian scientists, while Marines efficiently secured raiders who had terrorized Council space for months. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Starweaver, Sarah replied calmly. We responded to a distress call and prevented the theft of restricted research materials. We are prepared to transfer custody of the prisoners and provide full documentation of their crimes. The Ardaxian's compound eyes studied her for a long moment. You had no authority to intervene. No, Sarah agreed. We had something better. We had the ability to help, and the choice to use that ability to protect rather than harm. She gestured to the recovering scientists. Ask them if they regret our intervention. The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. Then one of the Lysithian scientists floated forward, their crystalline form still bearing the marks of the raiders' brutality. The humans saved us, they announced, their melodic voice carrying clearly. When they could have passed by, they chose to help. Is this not what the Council claims to stand for? Commander Vextol's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation in their species. Finally, they spoke. We will review the situation. Maintain your position and prepare for boarding. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her crew. Well done, everyone. Now comes the hard part, politics. Rodriguez chuckled darkly. You know, for a species the Council considers too violent, we just did their job for them without firing a single lethal shot. Maybe that's the lesson they need to learn, Sarah replied, watching the Council ships approach. Sometimes the most dangerous thing about humanity isn't our capacity for violence. It's our capacity to choose when not to use it. The Starweaver's crew continued their work, helping the scientists rebuild while awaiting the Council's judgment. They had violated regulations, crossed boundaries, and risked a diplomatic incident. But as Sarah watched her people work alongside the Lysithians, she knew they had proven something vital. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to survive on a death world, but their willingness to use that strength to protect others. Breaking point. The Council investigation team moved through the Starweaver's corridors like a swarm of suspicious insects, their environmental suits humming as they adjusted to human standard gravity. Captain Chen watched from her ready room as they interviewed crew members, collected data, and generally made everyone uncomfortable. They've been at it for 6 hours, Rodriguez reported, sliding a tablet across her desk. But here's something interesting. Our prisoners are talking. Seems the Varkai aren't as tough when they're facing actual consequences. Sarah studied the intelligence report, her expression darkening. This wasn't just a raid for profit. The attackers knew exactly what they were looking for, the adaptation research. Someone tipped them off. It gets worse. Rodriguez leaned forward. 3 other research stations have been hit in the past month. Different raiders, same target. Biological adaptation technology. We just stopped the first group that left survivors. A chime announced another visitor. Dr. Martinez entered, followed by one of the Lysithian scientists. Relics, their crystalline form now repaired, but still bearing faint stress lines from their ordeal. Captain, Relix's melodic voice carried an urgent tone. We've been analyzing the data from the raider ships. The encryption was familiar. They hesitated. It uses Council security protocols. Sarah's jaw tightened. You're saying this attack was sanctioned by Council members? Not officially. Relix's crystal structure flickered with anxiety patterns. But someone with high-level access is coordinating these raids. Our research, it could revolutionize space travel, yes, but in the wrong hands. It could create an army capable of invading any world. Rodriguez finished. No environmental limitations, no need for specialized equipment. A priority alert flashed on Sarah's console. Captain, Park's voice came through. Council ships are moving into attack positions around the station. They're charging weapons. Sarah was moving before he finished speaking. Rodriguez and the others right behind her. They burst onto the bridge just as the main screen lit up with Commander Vextel's image. Captain Chen, the Ardaxian's mandibles clicked rapidly. Our investigation has revealed disturbing evidence. For the safety of the Council, we must seize your vessel and all research materials. Sarah's mind raced. The Council ships had them outgunned, but something wasn't right. Under what authority? We've cooperated fully. This is not a negotiation. Vextal's compound eyes gleamed. Surrender your ship, or we will take it by force. The pieces clicked into place. You're part of it, Sarah realized. The raids, the stolen research, you're trying to clean up loose ends. The Ardaxians' expression didn't change, but their secondary antennae twitched. A tell Sarah had learned meant surprise in their species. Accusations from a Deathworlder mean nothing. You have 30 seconds to comply. Sarah looked at her crew, saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt. All hands, battle stations, security teams to sensitive areas. Dr. Martinez, get our guests to safety. She turned back to the screen. Commander, I'm going to explain something about humans that your council seems to have missed. We don't just survive on our death world. We thrive there. We've evolved to protect our own, to stand against overwhelming odds. And right now, we're choosing to protect everyone on this station. You are outnumbered and outgunned, Vextel stated flatly. Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Maybe. But we're also really good at improvising. She nodded to Rodriguez, who had been quietly working at his console. Now, the lights throughout the station flickered as the Starweaver's engineers executed their hastily prepared plan. The station's environmental systems, designed by humans who always planned for worst-case scenarios, began pumping the atmosphere with a carefully calibrated mix of gases. Fun fact about human biology, Sarah announced as the council boarding team started stumbling, their environmental suits struggling to compensate. We can handle atmospheric conditions that would incapacitate most species. We don't just survive in them. We train for them. Through the view screens, they watched council security forces collapse, their systems overwhelmed by conditions humans considered merely uncomfortable. The Starweaver's crew, meanwhile, moved with practiced efficiency in their own suits, securing weapons and communications. Lieutenant Park, send our evidence packet to every council world, every independent system, and every news network in range, Sarah ordered. Let's see how they explain this. Captain, relics floated forward, their crystalline form resonating with what Sarah had learned to recognize as determination. The Lysithian Assembly must know of this. We have been wrong about humans. Perhaps many of us have been wrong about many things. Sarah nodded, but her attention was on the tactical display. More ships were appearing at the edge of sensor range. Council reinforcements, probably. But there were other signals too. Ships dropping out of FTL. Independent traders, documentary crews, and even a few military vessels from non-council worlds. All drawn by the data burst they'd just sent out. The galaxy's watching now, Rodriguez observed. Think they'll risk attacking us with witnesses. They might not have a choice, Sarah replied. We've exposed part of their operation, but this goes deeper. Someone in the council wants that research badly enough to risk exposure. She straightened in her command chair, and we're going to find out why. The Starweaver's engines hummed as they prepared for whatever came next. They had crossed a line, exposed a conspiracy, and challenged the council's authority. But as Sarah looked at her crew, humans who had chosen to protect rather than destroy, to expose truth rather than hide it. She knew they had also done something else. They had shown the galaxy that being evolved from a death world didn't make them monsters. It made them exactly what the galaxy needed right now: strength and unity. The emergency council session was broadcast across every major network in known space. Captain Sarah Chen stood before the assembled representatives, her dress uniform pristine despite the chaos of the past 48 hours. Behind her, displayed on massive screens, evidence of the conspiracy played in a damning loop. We have confirmed that elements within Council security collaborated with raiders to steal adaptation research from multiple facilities. Sarah's voice carried clearly through the chamber. Their goal was to create a force capable of invading any world, regardless of environmental conditions. The same technology that could have helped peaceful exploration was being weaponized. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Ardaxian High Commissioner's mandibles clicked rapidly as they processed the information. "These are serious accusations, Captain, but they do not explain your unauthorized intervention in Council space." "No." Sarah gestured to where relics and other Lysithian scientists waited. "Ask the survivors. Ask why a human vessel answered their distress call when Council forces were mysteriously delayed. Ask why those same Council ships then attempted to destroy all evidence and witnesses." A new voice cut through the chamber. "I can answer that." Commander Vextal strode forward, now wearing the insignia of Council intelligence. "The humans are correct. We have identified a faction within the Council, the Dominion Initiative. They believe our policy of peaceful coexistence has made us weak. They plan to use the adapted raiders as a deniable force, creating crisis that would justify military expansion." Shock rippled through the chamber. The Ardaxian High Commissioner's color shifted to deep blue, a sign of grave concern. "You were part of this conspiracy. Why reveal it now?" "Because I saw something I never expected." Vextal's compound eyes fixed on Sarah. Humans, whom we labeled as too violent for membership, showed more restraint than our own forces. They could have destroyed our ships, killed our boarding teams. Instead, they chose to incapacitate and expose. They protected not just the Lysithians, but our own ideals. "Pretty words," a voice called out. Councillor Drav of the militant Krell hegemony rose. "But they don't change facts. Humans are Deathworlders. Their very biology makes them walking weapons. How can we trust?" "That's enough." The voice was quiet but carried authority. Elder Shen of the Lysithian Assembly glided forward, their crystalline form gleaming. "We feared humans for their strength, their adaptability, their potential for violence. We were wrong. Those same traits make them perfect defenders of peace." Sarah stepped forward. "We don't want to rule or dominate. Earth taught us something valuable. The strongest species aren't those that fight alone, but those that form communities, that protect each other. Yes, we're Deathworlders. Yes, we're stronger, faster, more durable than many species, but we choose how to use those abilities." The chamber erupted in debate. On the massive screens, more evidence played. Human Marines evacuating wounded scientists, engineering teams repairing vital station systems, medical staff treating injuries. Dozens of small moments showing humanity's capacity for protection rather than destruction. Alerts flashed across the chamber's information displays. Reports were coming in from across Council space, more raids being thwarted, corrupt officials exposed, hidden facilities discovered. The Dominion Initiative's network was unraveling. "The conspiracy spreads deep," Vextal announced. "We've identified cells in 12 systems, but there are more. They've hidden their tracks well, using our own security protocols against us." "Then perhaps," Elder Shen suggested, their crystalline form pulsing with determined light, "it is time to accept help from those whose very nature makes them excellent at hunting predators." The High Commissioner's color shifted again, this time to the deep green of decision. "Captain Chen, your actions, while unauthorized, have exposed a grave threat to the Council. How would humanity respond to a formal request for assistance in this matter?" Sarah smiled. Earth has already authorized me to extend an offer. We propose a joint task force. Council investigators paired with human teams. We provide the muscle. You provide the authority and local knowledge. Together, we can root out this conspiracy and protect the peace you've built. A human suggestion. Vextall noted, that offers power sharing rather than dominance. Interesting. The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Then, system by system, representatives began signaling agreement. The Lysithians first, followed by the research worlds, then the trade consortiums, and finally, even the militant factions. It seems, the High Commissioner announced that we must revise our assessment of Deathworlders. Captain Chen, your task force is authorized. Choose your teams. As the chamber erupted in historic debate about humanity's new role in galactic society, Sarah's communicator chirped. A message from Rodriguez. More raids reported in the Outer Rim. Looks like the Dominion initiative isn't going quietly. Sarah's response was immediate. Alert the Starweaver and contact Earth. We'll need more ships. She looked out at the assembled council, at species that had feared humanity now turning to them for protection. Time to show the galaxy what Deathworlders can really do when we're fighting for something worth protecting. The winds of change swept through the council chamber, carrying with them a new understanding. Sometimes the most dangerous species could be the best defenders of peace, if only you gave them the chance to prove it. Legacy of the Deathworlders. The Dominion Initiative's fortress hung in the void like a twisted cathedral, its dark hull bristling with weapons. 6 months of joint operations had led to this moment. The combined fleet of Council and Earth vessels held position just outside weapons range. 30 ships representing a dozen species, all unified by a common purpose. Final status report. Sarah Chen, now Admiral of the Joint Protection Force, commanded from the bridge of the enhanced Star Cruiser Horizon. The former exploration vessel had been upgraded for its new role, but its heart remained the same, a ship built to protect. All teams in position. Rodriguez, her fleet operations officer, confirmed. Human Council strike teams are ready on all vessels. The Lysithian detection grid is active. They won't be able to use their stolen adaptation technology without us knowing. Admiral. A melodic voice called. Relics, now the official Lysithian liaison to the joint force, glided forward. Our deep scans confirm it. They're manufacturing biological weapons using our research. If those weapons deploy. Sarah nodded grimly. The Dominion Initiative's plan had become clear. Force the soft species to adapt or die, creating a galaxy of hardened warriors whether they wanted it or not. The complete opposite of everything the Council stood for. Open a channel to all ships, Sarah ordered. The comm officer nodded, and she addressed the fleet. This is Admiral Chen. 6 months ago, humanity was considered too dangerous for galactic society. Today, we prove why that strength, properly directed, is exactly what the galaxy needs. All ships, battle formations. Remember your training. Together, we are stronger than any force that seeks to divide us. The fleet moved with practiced precision. Council ships, with their superior shields and energy weapons, formed the outer ring. Earth vessels, built to survive the harshest conditions, took the inner positions. At Sarah's command, they advanced. The fortress's weapons blazed to life, filling space with deadly energy. But this fleet had trained for months under human combat instructors. Council ships performed maneuvers that would have been considered impossible months ago, their crews no longer afraid to push their limits. Earth vessels demonstrated why ships built by Deathworlders were nearly impossible to destroy, absorbing punishment that would have vaporized lighter craft. Multiple hostile launches detected, Rodriguez reported. They're deploying their enhanced boarding forces. Through the tactical display, Sarah watched as modified raiders, their bodies twisted by stolen adaptation technology, attempted to breach their lines. But they faced something unprecedented. Human Marines fighting alongside Council security forces, each complementing the other's strengths. This is Strike Team Alpha. Major Santos's voice crackled through the comm. We've breached their primary hull. Lysithian science team confirms their adaptation technology is unstable. They rushed the integration. Their troops are literally burning out. All teams, advance, Sarah ordered. Push them back. Engineering teams, stand by for core breach protocols. She turned to relics, ready to show them the proper way to use your research. The crystalline scientists' form pulsed with determined light. When the conspiracy had been exposed, the Lysithians hadn't hidden their research. Instead, they'd worked with human scientists to perfect it, creating something wonderful instead of terrible. Adaptation field generators online, relics confirmed. Properly calibrated this time. To protect life, not destroy it. The battle raged for hours. The Dominion Initiative's forces fought with the desperation of zealots, but they faced something they couldn't comprehend. Strength tempered by compassion. Determination guided by wisdom. Human Marines adapted instantly to changing environmental conditions thanks to properly calibrated Lysithian technology. Council forces demonstrated precision and tactical brilliance learned from human trainers. Their core is destabilizing, Rodriguez reported. They're trying to take us all with them. Not today. Sarah's voice was steel. All ships, emergency positions. Engineering, execute Protocol Guardian. The fleet moved as one, forming a barrier between the fortress and the nearby inhabited systems. Modified shields, developed by human and council scientists working together, sprang to life. When the fortress finally exploded, its death throes were contained and controlled. In the aftermath, as rescue operations began and prisoners were taken into custody, Sarah stood on her bridge and watched the combined fleet at work. Human ships conducted search and rescue alongside council vessels. Medical teams from a dozen species worked together to treat the injured, even the enemy wounded. Admiral. Relics approached, their crystalline form resonating with what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of pride. The Council Assembly is convening an emergency session. They're calling for a formal alliance with Earth, not just membership. A true partnership. Sarah smiled. Funny how things work out. They feared us because we came from a death world, because we were stronger and more aggressive. They never considered that those same traits would make us the perfect protectors. Perhaps that is the true legacy of this conflict, Relics observed. Not that Deathworlders learned to be peaceful, but that the galaxy learned strength and peace are not opposing forces. The Horizon's engines hummed as they set course for the Council capital. Behind them, the combined fleet fell into formation, human and alien ships flying together, a symbol of what was possible when fear gave way to understanding. Send word to Earth, Sarah ordered. Tell them the Deathworlders found their place in the galaxy. Not as conquerors, not as outcasts, but as guardians. Because that's what humans do best. We protect what matters, we stand against the darkness, and we help others rise to their full potential. As the fleet jumped to FTL, Sarah thought about how far they'd come from that first distress call. The galaxy had feared humanity's strength, never realizing that true strength wasn't about the ability to destroy, but the choice to protect. They had feared the Deathworlders, only to discover that sometimes the most dangerous species made the best defenders of peace. The legacy of the Deathworlders would not be written in conquest or isolation, but in the countless lives saved, the alliances forged, and the better future they helped build. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their strength or their adaptability. It was their demonstration that power could serve protection, that difference could breed unity, and that even those evolution had shaped into warriors could choose to become guardians of peace.